I'm visiting with Anne Murray, and Anne has a new singing partner. I watched her last night as she performed with Kenny Rogers. Annie, who created this situation?
Well, actually, Jim Ed Norman, who, as you know, used to produce all my records in the late 70s and early 80s. And he called me, and he's now producing Kenny. And he said, "Would you like to do a duet?" And I said, "Well, what's the song? Send me the song." He sent me the song, and I listened. And I had heard the song before. It's a Steve Dorff tune. But they had revamped it considerably to make it into a duet. And it was a very good demo. So I said, yes, I'd love to do it. So Kenny put on his vocal, and then Jim Ed brought the track to Toronto, and I put my vocal on. That was that. I always thought our voices would sound good together. I always thought
Now,
that.
on the CMA show, was that the first time you had ever sung it together?
First time we'd ever sung it live, yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
You could have a whole career with a singing partner and never
meet them.
Now, I know you made an album with Glenn Campbell once.
Mm-hmm.
How many singing partners have you had?
Well, now, I did that duet album with Glenn, and I did the duet Nobody Loves Me Like You Do with Dave Loggins.
Right.
And I've done a few things on albums with my brother and
Bruce
Murray, yeah. And but that's been pretty much it.
You like this situation?
I like it very much. I like this record, and I like working with Kenny. He's a real professional.
Yeah, and he's also always up.
Yeah, he is.
That's how I read him.
Yeah, he is. He's always up. He's a real great guy.
One of the best records, from a personal standpoint, I thought you ever made in this situation was the medley of "Say a Little Prayer" and "By the Time I Get to Phoenix."
Yeah. That was neat.
With Glenn Campbell.
Yeah, there's a story behind that. I probably told you this story before sometime when we've talked, but the first time we did that live was when I opened for Glenn in Las Vegas years ago. And we tried to do it because he had done it on a television show with Dionne Warwick.
Right.
It was her tune, of course. And they had arranged it to do that. So he said, well, let's try doing this. Well, it's really tricky. That's a real tricky musical thing to do. So I had to write the words in my hand because I was so nervous doing this thing. And there I was with all these hand flourishes in front of my eyes so that I could see the words to this tune and at the same time remember the musical intricacies of this tune. It was very difficult to do.
Your responses have to be very quick.
Oh, exactly, yeah.
You remind me of do you recall the Giesenslaw brothers? The comedy act.
Oh,
used
yes.
to be on Capitol.
That's right.
Sammy wears a hat, and inside it, and he'll take his hat off.
And inside of the words.
Inside his hat, he has
jokes.
He has all his jokes.
Yeah.
And so if he's ever waving his hat, or gesturing with it, he's looking for the next joke. And I read someplace that you have a new museum, and I believe it's back in Nova Scotia.
Yes, it is.
Tell me about that.
Well, they were going to call it a museum, Ralph, but I told them to wait till I was dead. Now, I realize that there's the Museum of Natural History and all of that with living things, but there's something about the word museum that connotates death or... So anyways, they're now calling it a center, and what it is basically is the same kind of thing that you have here in Nashville, and that is memorabilia. It's filled with memorabilia from practically the day I was born right through until today. It's gold records, it's Grammys, it's Juno Awards, it's Country Music Association Awards, and all the things that I've won over the years. And I mean, I've seen them, I've touched them, I've experienced them, and I think it's neat to be able to put them into a building and have people see them, people who have never seen anything like that before.
Would you explain to our audience what a Juno is?
Oh, a Juno Award is a Canadian Music Industry Award, and they're very similar to the ones that you have here, but it's more, I suppose, more like the Grammys in that they include country music, they include pop, they include everything.
Is there a particular piece of memorabilia that is rather significant?
Well, I think probably the most amazing to me was all the things that my mother kept, and I wondered why. I mean, there's things like my old skates and skis and ski boots, and even a softball mitt that I had when I was a kid. Even the softball, and things like a little electric stove that I used as a very small child, little dresses that I wore, and I'm sure tore off at the first opportunity. But she kept all that stuff. Now, whether she was clairvoyant or whether she's just a pack rat, I don't know.
Exactly where is it located?
It's located on the main street in my hometown of Spring Hill, Nova Scotia.
And I assume, is it seasonal? Is it during?
It is seasonal. It opens in May and it closes in October.
So if I walk through this center,
Yes.
uh, is it in chronological order? Can I
Yes.
follow your life?
Absolutely. And as you walk in the front door, there's a huge family tree, and it goes back to the 16th century.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, on my mother's side, or they're French, and they go way back. It takes them right from the Loire Valley right over to Nova Scotia, where they all landed.
How about on your father's side?
On my father's side, it goes back to early 1700s. So we have a real nice. So people spend a lot of time on that family tree, and then there's an entrance that takes you through, and I guide you through musically, and it's really beautifully done.
On your father's side, where do your ancestors hail from?
My father's side, they're from Scotland. Yes, Athol, in Scotland.
Athol is a town?
Well, I don't. It's an area. I've never been there, so I don't know. But it's funny because it's the Murray tartan, and I went to see Glenn Campbell last week and his show, and he was playing the bagpipes. He was saying that the tartan was the Campbell tartan on his bagpipes. So tartan is a Gaelic word for ugly cloth. I thought that was a great line.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know either.
Did you tell me once that you were the first lady to play Vegas for $1 million a week?
No, I don't think so. I never played for $1 million a week, I can tell you that. I wouldn't be here. No.
I spoke to you once about your Vegas show, and but you were quite elated about an enormous amount of money they were paying you.
Well, they did pay me. They've always paid me large amounts of money. They pay. But you see, what happened in Vegas was, I think it was Dolly. The rumor has it that Dolly was getting $350,000 a week, and that was the ceiling. The rooms couldn't go any higher than that.
Now Wayne Newton goes what, 500,000?
Does he now?
That's what the paper says.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know anything about it. I know this was several years ago, when they had to stop booking talent like Dolly and Kenny Rogers and myself because they had taken themselves to the limit, and then all the other performers who were getting a paltry 300,000 a week were complaining that, and it was in principle only, I think, were complaining that we can fill the rooms the same as Dolly can. Why can't you pay us $350? So what they had to do was just stop. So they stopped big name talent for a few years in Vegas and just did reviews and things while everything settled down.
It got to be like baseball salaries,
Yeah,
football salaries.
it just got totally out of hand. So
I can recall Jimmy Dean working when Howard Hughes was still alive, and Jimmy Dean had to portray Howard Hughes in a James Bond picture. And I said, we were discussing his portrayal. He said, well, I wasn't going to say anything that would make him look bad because he was paying me $50,000 a week to sing in one of his clubs.
Exactly.
You like Vegas?
I like it now. I didn't like it back then. I played Vegas over a period of about 4 years. I played 52 weeks. And I didn't like it because I was doing 2 weeks at a time, 28 shows in a row, and you're just a robot by the end of it.
Did you do 2 a night?
2 shows a night, no nights off, and you did 2 weeks straight. Oh, boy, that's tough going. And in those days, I had little children, and, you go to bed you can't go to bed before 3, 4 in the morning, and so you're not up at the crack of dawn with your kids, and I kind of missed that. And but I went through it. It was a time I had to go through it. I mean, that was in order for me to have my kids with me. I could be in one place for 2 weeks, as opposed to traveling, doing one-nighters every night. That's so difficult. So it was what I had to do at the time, but I didn't enjoy it very much. But now I do, because I go in and I do one show a night.
Now, why don't you do what they call a dinner show and then a late show?
Well, because I don't want to do 2 shows a night. And I said, if I'm going to play Vegas again,
So you play on your own terms.
I do on my own terms. I play one show a night, and that's it. And what I do is kind of like an in-concert situation. I do an hour and a half to an hour 45. I perform, I stay on stage. Whereas before I used to do an hour 10, twice a night. Well, this way I just stay on a bit longer, and it's easier on your voice. It's easier on everything. You're not sitting around waiting for 3 hours between shows. Kenny Rogers and I were talking about that last night. It's the worst. You get so tired, and it's so hard to get up for the. Now, mind you, here I am complaining. We're well paid for the,
But
I shouldn't complain at all, but I just didn't enjoy it.
and when you work, do you get on an emotional high?
Oh, yes. Very much so.
Then after your show,
Yeah.
which is what, an hour and a half?
Well, the show's, about an hour and a half to 2 hours. but,
Okay, how
yeah.
long does it take you to come down?
It doesn't take me nearly so long now, Ralph, as it used to, because I used to get so nervous that I would be up for hours after the show. But now I'm so much more relaxed about everything that I do that everything's at a more even keel, and I find that I can come back after a show and go to my room and pretty much go right to bed.
And go right to sleep?
Yeah.
I find that rather amazing.
Yeah, now I can do that. It took me a lot of years. It's 20 years of doing this. But now when you get older, too, you get tireder. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I know. But
Earlier.
I'm older than you, and I still I do a television show every night,
Yeah.
and I really get wired.
Yeah, you would.
It's
but,
very, very intense.
Well, television's a bit different, too, than say, doing your own road show, because you're out there, you're totally in control. If something goes wrong, you just go, please stop and start it. Television, there's quite a bit more pressure in a television.
You have the time constraints.
Exactly, that you don't have in a live show. I got all night. If a mic goes out, you find another mic, you go do, that sort of thing.
Do you still have that heavy crystalline, that's all I know to call it, the stool?
Yes, I
that
do.
You used to sit on?
Yeah, it's an acrylic stool.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I do have that.
I ran into it the time we worked in Cincinnati. I came up and
That's
did that
right,
show
did
with
that
you.
show, yeah.
And I went up, and it's a stool that you can't knock over. It's too heavy.
It is
and
very heavy.
I assume that's on purpose, so you won't accidentally fall off of it.
Exactly. That's very sturdy, too. Don't bounce around.
You still dance on stage?
Yes, I do. I'm better than I ever was, Ralph.
You are very self-effacing. You make fun of yourself a lot, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
I think
that's the way I grew up. I had 5 brothers who treated me like dirt a lot of the time, and I think it all comes from there.
You make little jokes about yourself on stage, about what you wear,
Sure.
that sort of thing.
Yeah.
When you were you a tomboy?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I played baseball with the boys. I played hockey and football and did all of that.
Were you the baby?
No, I had 3 older brothers, 2 younger. But I did most of that playing with the older brothers.
See, I'm an only child, so I don't know.
No.
But did they treat you just like one of the guys?
Yeah, they sure did. I was never treated any differently than they treated each other, which was rough and tumble, I'll tell you.
So they would square off with you.
Oh, yes. I don't think they spared the horses. I mean, I was black and blue for the longest time.
And you played all the sports.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, just in the field, just...
Did you hate to put on a dress?
Oh, yes. I can remember my mother used to dress me up, and I'd have to go do things, and she'd find pieces of the dress on the tree,
Would your brothers laugh at you?
Yes. They would make fun of me when I put on a dress, of course. They thought I looked funny in a dress.
And I want to ask you about your family. I'm guessing your children now would be about 13 and 7.
13 and 10 there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how's Bill?
He's great, too. I won't tell you how old he is,
Okay, I
but he
won't.
looks great. And, yeah, the kids are doing just fine. They're I'm looking up at my son now.
He's 13.
Yeah,
How tall
he's
is
13. He's about 5'8".
he? Is he going to be a jock or a singer?
Well, he's just lately. Of course, it's so funny because I've always been so interested in sports, and neither of my kids are one bit interested. Of course, I watch hockey all the time, and I'm into the World Series, and they're not a bit interested. So strange, but my son has been getting into sports at school. He plays rugby and volleyball, but he also plays the drums, and that's his number one love, I think, the drums. But I'm seeing to it that he learns to play the piano before he does the drum. I want him to make sure he knows music.
How about your daughter? Is it your daughter?
My daughter, she's into music too. She plays piano and hates every minute of
Is
it.
that Dawn?
Dawn, yeah, that's right. Or Dawn, or no, wait a second. How do they say it here? I don't know.
How do you say it?
I say Dawn.
Dawn.
Yeah,
Okay.
but everybody tells me I'm pronouncing it wrong, but it's my kid, you know
That's
what I mean?
right, absolutely. I think a teacher once told me you can pronounce your own name any way you wish,
Exactly.
and that's correct.
And that's correct, yes.
Why weren't you called Morna,
Well, I'm not
which
sure.
is your first name?
My first name is Morna, yes. That was my grandmother's name. And I think they got that name from some kind of an Icelandic book that they had. I mean, this is way back. And I think they think it's an Icelandic name. But my mother, when she was pregnant, prayed to Saint Anne every day that she would have a girl because she had 3 boys and that was plenty. And so she did, and she did novenas and prayed to Saint Anne, and there I was. So she called me Anne, and that's what she wanted me to be called.
Were you Catholic?
Day. Yes, I was brought up Roman Catholic.
Are you? Would you consider yourself a religious individual? Let me say.
I'm not a devout Catholic.
Excuse me.
But I am. Yes.
Strong convictions.
Yes, very strong convictions. Absolutely. I keep them to myself pretty much, and my children are being brought up Roman Catholic, so I would, as I say, I wouldn't consider myself devout, but I do have strong convictions, as you say.
You still travel a lot?
I travel a fair amount. I do about 75 to 80 dates a year, which is minimum. It's about as little as I can do and still keep the wheels rolling because I have a band on retainer and I have an office to run and all of those things. So in order to keep all that going, I have to do about 80 dates a year, and also to keep fresh and on top of things, and keep the voice working properly. So that's about right for me. I don't want to do any more than that.
Are you a very private person?
I think so. I certainly don't wear my heart on my sleeve, or I keep a lot of things I keep my politics to myself.
Do you try to keep your show business life over here and your private life over here?
Yes, I do.
You try
and
to keep them separate?
I think I do that. Now, it's very difficult, especially at the age where my kids are now. It all looks like one to them. This is my job, and I come home, and they don't talk about it a lot, as I don't. But it's now they're so aware of all my television appearances and things that I do, and I take them on the road with me. I'm trying to make it just as matter of fact as I can for them. Now, the kids at school make a fuss and stuff, but that'll change as the school is new, so it'll change as time goes on, and I'll just become part of the woodwork like everybody else, I hope.
I don't think so. Do you have a temper?
Not much of a temper. I'm pretty even-tempered. I don't have real high highs or very low lows, somewhere in the middle, but I do get upset about things. I hate hotels with windows that don't open.
What's your pet peeve besides that?
I think littering is about as... I can't stand littering.
Are you apolitical?
Pretty much. Yeah.
You, from our past conversations, I got the impression you do keep up with issues.
Oh, yes, very much so.
You're interested in issues, right?
Yes, I'm
I
interested
guess
in
that
everything.
that was the reason you cut Little Good News.
Yeah, I mean, that's social comment, and but that's about as far as I'm going to go. You know, I just kind of feel that there are times when I use my celebrity to aid causes. I mean, I've done things with Save the Children. I've done things with the mentally retarded. I've done a lot of things that way. But as far as the political thing is concerned, I like to use the stage for fun and entertainment, and that's it.
Well, it's obvious you have a sense of humor, so I won't
Yes.
even fool with that question. Are you quick to forgive people?
Yes, very.
Do you think you read people well?
Yes, I think I read.
Think you're
people very-
intuitive?
I do. Yes.
You intuitive about situations other than people?
Yeah, I think I'm very good with people. I'm not sure where that comes from, but I think I'm intuitive about a lot of things.
Do you resent an invasion of your privacy?
Well, no, I am in the public eye, and if people want to ask me questions about my private life or invade on my private life, that's fine with me. What I say is no.
Excuse me?
I mean, I just say no, that you can't come in here, or you can't do this, or and it's as simple as that. That's the end of it.
Didn't someone invade your privacy in the Atlanta airport in the restroom asking?
Oh, yes. That was very early on. I was in one of the stalls in the ladies' room, and somebody handed a piece of paper underneath my stall for me to give them an autograph. Well, I thought that was a great lark, and that was back in the early days. People are by and large very, very good. I do sign autographs. I do spend time with people, and I don't mind doing any of that. And I find that maybe in all the years I've been doing this, maybe 5 or 6 times have I been put off by fans who are maybe just demanding a little too much. But, I mean, that's certainly a small number.
When they come up to speak to you, and I'm sure you intimidate a lot of people.
I'm sure I do. I mean, I'm intimidated when I'm in the presence of other people who are famous often.
Have you ever asked for an autograph?
Well, I asked Kenny Rogers for one.
But what do people, as they come up and approach you, in addition to saying, could I have your autograph?
Yeah.
They ask you questions?
Yeah.
What do they ask you?
They mostly ask me about my children. And how old are your children, and how are they doing, and things like that. And my brother Bruce, who hasn't worked with me for a few years, they ask about him. And they'll sometimes ask about a hairdo or some outfit that I've worn or something like that.
They ask you why you wore this or that on an album cover?
No, they never ask that. No, sometimes, I mean, I'm sure that's happened, but
The reason I ask you that, you've always been pictured as if you will forgive me, the all-American girl,
Yes.
though you are Canadian. And yet, it seems like about 85 or 86 you had an album cover that had a short miniskirt on,
oh yes,
and you have very nice legs, incidentally.
thank you.
And that was kind of a departure for you.
I suppose. I think the departure came in the spiked hair more than anything. That was the thing that made the most noise. It made me laugh because I thought, this is just a hairdo. It can be gone in 2 minutes. Just pour a bucket of water over it. But I think people think that your personality changes if you have a spiked hairdo. But it was just the hairdo of the day. And I mean, you can't have the same hairdo all the time. It's boring. So I changed it. I put a few spikes in it, and they go, "Oh no, what's happened to you?" I never saw so many people react to a hairdo in my life.
You said something about being labeled. You want to repeat what you said?
Well, what I said was that when I first started, a lot of people have been asking me for years whether I consider myself to be a country singer or a pop singer, and I just set out to be a singer. I didn't think about being one or the other. I didn't think that was necessary, but I soon found out that there are a reason for labels, and that's so they can find a place to put you in the music store. Well, I hated that because I wanted to sing everything.
I would think if I had a music store, I would put you all over the place because I think you do transcend lines of demarcation, and I know you've always resented
Well,
being pigeonholed.
yeah, I do, and it has nothing to do with being called country or pop or anything like that. It's just that it limits you musically. That you can't, all of a sudden, if you go do something else, people go, oh, well, then she doesn't want to sing country anymore, because that's not true. I mean, a good country song comes along, and I grab it just like that. I mean, I have well, at least two tunes on this Greatest Hits, the new album, that are definitely like real country tunes, and they're beautiful songs, and I love them.
They are.
They are. They're all three of the new tunes. There's 7 songs on the new album that have been hits, and then the other 3 are new, and they all have the word fall in them, so it's easy for me to remember. The duet with Kenny Rogers is If I Ever Fall in Love Again, and then there's When I Fall, which is a Paul Overstreet song, and then the other one is, what is that? I'd Fall in Love Tonight, which is a Mike Reed tune.
Mike Reed used to play football for the Cincinnati
Bengals.
And writes for Ronnie Millsap.
Oh, he's a great writer too, and sings great.
All right, so you'll ride with the duet with Kenny Rogers for probably 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Will the next single be out of this album?
Absolutely.
What will it be?
Well, there's 2 to choose from, Ralph. It's a 50-50.
When I Fall or I'd Fall in Love
I'd
Tonight?
Fall in Love Tonight. I don't know which one it's going to be, but we'll all put our heads together at Capitol, and we'll see what we come up with.
You don't write songs,
No.
do you?
No.
You just depend on other people to do that. You ever do it just for your own amusement?
Well, I've written some words, some lyrics, and looked at them later and thought, God, you're stupid. But the only time I really have felt compelled to write songs is when I've listened to so many and there's nothing there, and I go, why don't you write something yourself?
Mm-hmm.
But then it's too much like work.
And Murray, when are you going to write your book?
Well, I think hopefully my life is just half over, so I still have a lot of living to do. So,
well, Johnny Cash wrote Man in Black in '75, and he's still going strong.
Yeah. So, well, I'd like to put it all in one book. So I think I'm going to wait.
I assume you've been approached.
Oh, yes. But I think I'm going to wait until I've really lived another 30 years, and I'll consider it.
Do you really want to write a book?
Yeah, I think I would like to.
Would you have a difficult time writing a book that is revealing about your friends, or would you just refuse to do that?
I'm not sure at this stage. That's the other thing. I think at this stage I wouldn't talk about, there would be a lot of things I wouldn't talk about. I think when you get to be 70, 80 years old, you have less to lose, and you don't have so many people to worry about. And I think you're more apt to be a little more candid when you get a bit older. And it would make for more interesting reading.
Since you are a Canadian treasure, has the Canadian government ever honored you?
Yes, I was awarded with the highest award that they give in Canada, to civilians at least, and that was the Companion of the Order of Canada. It used to be the Order of the British Empire, and then Canada established its own to honor not just people of high profile like myself, but people in small communities who have done a great deal for their communities, like doctors or even a music teacher who might have contributed a lot. So it's really a neat thing.
So when did this happen?
This happened, I was given a member. There are 3 levels. There's a member of the Order of Canada, an officer, and then the Companion is the highest. And I was awarded the officer back in the middle 70s. And then they promoted me just about 2 or 3 years ago.
When that occurs, do you go in front of a legislative body?
Well, I go in front of the Governor General and in Ottawa. And she pins a little medal, and there's a ceremony.
What's a lady?
It was a lady. We now have a new governor general, but at that time was Jean Sauvé a lady.
That's quite an honor. Have they ever built?
was.
Have they built a statue to you yet?
No, not yet.
Has that been proposed?
I don't think so. I think that was probably in one of the things that they talked about when the town was looking for something to do for me in the town. When before the center was established, I think that they talked about a statue, but I'm glad they came up with this.
Why does the word Tatamagouche run through my mind?
Tatamagouche, my goodness, what a memory.
When I see you, I think Tatamagouche.
When I see you, I think of chewing tobacco. Why is that, Ralph? We did all those radio shows.
I used to have a sponsor like that.
Every time I see
were you born in Tatamagouche?
I was not born in Tatamagouche.
No, you were born in Spring Hill, weren't you?
I was born in My father was born in Tatamagouche.
But why did we talk about that?
Well, I think we got talking about because my mother's from Joggins, and there are a lot of Indian names in and around Spring Hill. There's a place called Stewiacke and Shubenacadie and Shinnemucass and all those places, and we get talking about strange names of places, and Tatamagouche was one of them.
Do you know what it means?
Well, there used to be I don't think it's true. I think it's an Indian name for something, but they said that there was a battle between a couple of Indians who had somehow captured a goose. And one guy was saying "tet my goose," and the other guy was saying "tet my goose." So
I think they made that up.
I think somebody made that up.
I think a writer made that up. Annie, I thank you. It's always a pleasure to see you in Nashville.
Thank you, Ralph.